By this time tomorrow, Temi Adeyemi thought her life would finally change. Rain tapped softly against the window of a small apartment in Port Harcourt. On the table beside her sat a neatly arranged interview file, her CV, her certificates, a passport photograph, everything she had prayed over for 2 long, exhausting years. After her youth service, Temi had applied everywhere. Banks, schools, oil companies, NGOs, but nothing worked. Every interview ended the exact same way. We'll get back to you. But tomorrow felt different. This was the final interview stage for a major oil company. The kind of opportunity people prayed for. The kind that could change an entire family. Or what was left of one. Because for Temi and her older brother Ayo Adeyemi, the one everyone called AY, life had never been easy. Their parents died when they were children, too young to understand grief, too young to understand why hunger suddenly became normal. But somehow, they survived. A church member paid part of their school fees one year. A neighbor gave them old school uniforms. Sometimes, AY skipped meals just so Temi could eat. Over the years, AY became more than a brother. He became father, mother, provider, protector. Now he worked as a banking officer in Lagos. Long hours, endless pressure, aggressive targets. But every single month, he still sent money. Even when Temi begged him not to. That night in Port Harcourt, Temi was staying with her closest friend Amara. Amara owned a small local restaurant nearby. Nothing fancy, just a small food spot that barely rested because survival in Nigeria did not rest. But somehow, Amara always showed up for her friends. The 2 women sat on the floor practicing interview questions late into the night. Then, before sleeping, they prayed together. Simple prayer, quiet faith. No shouting, no drama, just hope. For the first time in months, Temi smiled. Then her phone rang. 2:07 a.m., unknown number. She frowned, ignored it. Then it rang again, and again. Something suddenly felt wrong. Temi answered slowly. Hello? The voice on the other end sounded tense. Are you related to Ayo Adeyemi? Her heartbeat changed instantly. Yes, he's my brother. A pause. Then the words that shattered the night. He collapsed earlier this evening at work. Temi sat upright immediately. What? He was brought into the hospital unconscious. Everything around her suddenly felt distant. The room, the rain, even her own breathing. Temi's voice trembled. How bad is it? Another pause, then, we are still running tests. Tests. That word terrified her. Her hand began shaking. Amara rushed toward her immediately. Temi, what happened? But Temi could barely speak. It's why? A few minutes later, she sat on the floor beside the couch, staring blankly ahead. Not screaming, not panicking loudly, just frozen. Because fear sometimes arrives quietly. Questions flooded her mind. Should she leave for Lagos immediately? Should she cancel the interview? What if AY dies while she sits in an interview room? What if this job was the breakthrough he had sacrificed years for? Temi buried her face in her hands. God, not now. Amara stayed beside her silently. She called the hospital herself, tried to ask questions, but the answers remained unclear. AY was still unconscious. Temi's chest tightened. Then another problem appeared. The interview was scheduled for 1 p.m. If Temi traveled to Lagos now, she would miss it completely. But how could she stay back? The room fell silent. Then suddenly Amara stood up. I'll go. Temi looked up immediately. What? I'll go to Lagos. Amara, no. But Amara was already thinking ahead. Bus routes, hospital address, morning traffic, what needed to be done. By 5 a.m., rain still covered the streets as Amara stood outside locking her small restaurant. One of her workers looked confused. Madame, what about today's customers? Amara locked the door firmly. Some things are bigger than business. Back inside the apartment, Temi sat alone holding her brother's old text messages. One message read, Don't give up on yourself yet. Your time will come. Tears rolled down her face. Morning finally came. No sleep, no peace, only fear. Yet by noon, Temi still found herself standing in front of the massive office building for her interview. Candidates walked confidently around her, some revising notes, some laughing. But Temi could barely focus. Her phone remained tightly in her hand, waiting, praying, hoping. Then suddenly, her phone vibrated. A message from Amara. Temi opened it immediately, and her face changed. Join us next time on Stories of Hope for Episode 2, Between Fear and Faith. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Remember, even in the darkest night, God is still writing your story.